Hi, my name is Trish Chinzara, and today I will be talking about developmental language disorder and its links to emotion recognition abilities. So, emotion recognition is the ability to read emotional expressions, and this allows us to infer the emotional states of others and ourselves. And this skill is essential for navigating social interactions successfully, but also for self-regulating our emotions. So being able to tell how people are receiving what you say, and also vice versa, is a key part of day-to-day communication. So you can imagine that having a difficulty in both emotion recognition can pose wider challenges. So, as you might know, developmental language disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder categorized by significant difficulties in language acquisition and communication. And difficulties in emotion recognition have been found to be impaired in individuals with DLD. Now, you might be wondering what the link is between recognizing the emotions of others and also language. And essentially, emotion recognition isn't just the recognition of facial expressions. It also involves verbal expressions as well, for example, tone. And children's understandings of emotional concepts develops through different experiences. So you can think of emotion words as this almost conceptual glue for learning about abstract concepts. And we can think of emotions as being quite abstract. So, for example, it's quite difficult to define the emotion of anger without using examples, compared to sort of explaining to someone what something like a chair is, for example. So the context of an emotion and also the meaning may differ whilst the emotion itself is the same. So if we take the example of anger, and let's say this is presented to a child at one point by a caregiver who might say, "You are so angry today." And perhaps later on in the day, they misbehave and they're told, "I am very angry with you." And maybe later towards the end of the day, again, they're told, "Don't make your brother angry." So hopefully from these three examples, you can see that there are multiple instances of the same concept or label of anger being used, but we can also see how this changes according to the context. So having things like emotion labels through language can help us understand sort of abstract concepts like emotions, and this is really important developmentally. So now taking a bit of a look at the background. So there are a few links between language and emotion recognition as well. So language, like we've said, can be seen as a tool for emotion recognition, and it can help us to understand things like emotional cues, but also when it comes to labeling and recognizing emotions, both facial and vocal emotions as well. But poor emotion recognition can also negatively impact language development. So difficulties in understanding the emotions of others can make it then difficult to respond appropriately in conversations. And this can then limit opportunities for social interactions, which we need to develop language skills. And whilst the connection between language and emotion recognition is very clear, the direction of this influence remains quite unclear. So it could be that language is influencing emotion recognition or vice versa, but this relationship could also be going in both directions. It could be bidirectional. So there is limited research kind of looking at how individuals with DLD perform on emotion recognition tasks, and these findings aren't entirely consistent. And this might be due to variations in diagnostic criteria, some of the differences in the tasks that are being used, and also small sample sizes, meaning that we might not be tapping into some of these effects more clearly. So taking a look at some of the research that's been conducted, this graph is a forest plot which provides a summary of all of the papers conducted exploring children and adolescents with DLD's emotion recognition abilities in both facial and vocal recognition tasks when we compare them to control groups that are made up of typically developed children, children with autism spectrum disorder and ADHD as well. So essentially what we've been conducting in the lab is collecting all of the studies together to kind of look to see at the effect sizes, to really explore whether emotion recognition difficulties are a challenge for children and adolescents with DLD, and is this performance better or worse when compared to certain control groups. So I don't have time to sort of explain the graph in detail, but please feel free to email me and ask. But essentially, all of the dots that you sort of see are the results of the study, and almost all of them are skewed to the left side. And this shows that children with DLD are performing worse than their peers in these tasks. And the statistics that you see below just shows you that this is a significantly large difference as well. And the pink diamond that you see towards the bottom shows the overall effect of all of the studies combined, again showing that children and adolescents with DLD seem to be showing difficulties in emotion recognition tasks as well. And we can also see from sort of the graph that there's only one study that reports that children with developmental language disorder perform better at tasks overall when compared to a typically developed control group. So all of this is to say that emotion recognition difficulties can play a role in children's wider social environments. For example, it can impact peer experiences and friendships, whereby differences in sort of social understanding between DLD and typically developed peers may contribute to also the differences in friendships and peer relations amongst children and adolescents, which you can kind of see from some of the studies I've referenced here. And there was a meta-analysis looking at sort of the sociometric studies, and they found that children with DLD were at risk of poorer peer relations overall. And children reported being frustrated in conversations with friends when they had to constantly repeat themselves and have their speech corrected. So you can clearly see the impact that language difficulties can have on social emotional interactions. So hopefully this brief talk has shown the links between language and emotion recognition and the impact that this can have on children and adolescents with developmental language disorder. Please feel free to email me or follow my social media for updates on work and research projects, and we would love for you to be involved in some of them. Thank you.